Almost set. Almost set. Oh, hey, Emma. Welcome. This is a working weekend for you, it sounds like. Well, this box arrived from Texas on October 7th. So it's been here just about a month, waiting to be unboxed. The customer kind of followed up and wanted to find out if everything arrived safely. So as you saw, I just cleared off the workbench from the machine I was working on, doing a lot of motor and electrical work on it, that Adler machine that eventually is going to head back out to Washington State. But for today, we're going to take a little break away from the machines and jump on this unboxing so that this customer, Patty Landers out of Texas, knows whether or not there's any issues with how the machine arrived after being shipped. And I explained in that other premiere, I'm trying to become a little bit more diligent, but it's been so busy traveling down to the paint shop to finish up that other project that's going to be going back to Texas, that Model 27 that was a full restore. And if you haven't seen those pictures on Facebook, you'll want to check them out before, after, and then eventually we'll be premiering that machine probably next week, just to show you that 1908 Model 27 actually sewing before it heads back to Texas. So as far as clues on what might be in this box today, I'm going to show you the King's niece. That should right away give you a clue as to what the origin of this machine in here might in fact be. Again, the King of Sweden's niece, so huge clue there, but we have to figure out obviously still what model this might be. And some of you might be able to see it in the shot. We have Veterans Day coming up, and as a special treat to myself, I ordered this fun shirt. Kind of highlights Army service. The back is kind of cool as well. So I decided instead of wearing my DeWalt jacket today, I would throw this on so you guys could get a sneak peek of it before Veterans Day comes up on November 11th, just around the corner. All right, let's get busy on this unboxing, and then I'm going to jump back into my work on that Adler machine. All right. If you guys remember the premiere from about a month ago or so, Carol Johnson's machine, I can tell you that this machine in here is going to be a close brother, if not identical brother, to that machine. If you want to check out Carol Johnson's premiere, that'll give you an idea as to what we might be unveiling here. And hopefully it arrived without a scratch. And it looks like Patty from Texas was very serious about sending the message that this was something to be handled with care and that it was fragile. Even came up with this cool tape in lieu of stickers that she's put all over the box. So if the UPS people, this came by UPS ground, if the UPS ground people didn't get the message clearly that this was something to handle with kit gloves, then they probably need to go back to training again. I would think so. And I'm only going to be taking an occasional glance at the chat, so don't feel like I'm ignoring you. I'm trying to focus on getting us through this unboxing so that I can jump back into that Adler project again. That Adler, like a lot of the Adlers, they built the machines like tanks, but they sometimes didn't use the best of wiring, and it degrades over time and becomes a fire trap. So I've got to deal with that today, keep that project moving forward. Well, these are pretty cool pads in here. Oh, okay. So a little bit of the backstory on Patty's machine that came out of Texas. She was trying to operate the machine and all of a sudden got a poof. And the capacitor blew up. So let's take a look and see what's inside of here. Combination of foil. There's part of it right there, and it looks like it took out the bulb as well. So sometimes machines just arrive at the workshop because the customer wants it to run tip-top, or it might need some minor repairs. In this case, we had a catastrophic event that happened where the capacitor blew inside of the machine with apparently enough severity that it actually took out the lighting, part of the lighting system as well. So this will be interesting to dig into this project and see what triggered that event. Was it maybe a compromised electrical junction point like on that other 19E that I recently had on the workbench that I had to do a significant repair to because that plastic housing was cracked that supports the motor and also houses all of those electrical joining points. Maybe we had a short out or something that ended up causing this to basically explode. So we'll find out soon enough. I'll set this to the side and we'll start to get into this unboxing here. So we've got some sort of foam padding that's wrapped in plastic here. It is, it's very rigid, but it obviously would provide some protection from top impacts in that. You can kind of see what Patty ended up using. This is real stiff stuff, so it doesn't have a lot of pliability to take a shock, but it would still protect the machine from a direct impact on the top. And I'm guessing there's more of this throughout the packing job as well. But it's good, solid stuff. We got some of these airbags, and these are separate chambered airbags. So these are the better choice if you're going to use airbags in packing. Give you kind of a glimpse inside of the box so you can kind of see Patty's approach. Here we have what appears to be the machine in the center, and it's a cocoon just like I've shown in my packing videos. We've got side protection. We had that top piece on top as well. So Patty took a very serious approach to packing here, trying to make sure that whatever's inside of here is going to arrive safely. Again, traveling from Texas, so we're probably talking about a 1,000-mile journey. A lot can happen in 1,000 miles, right? A lot can happen just traveling within Wisconsin. Always, protecting for the worst case scenario, but hoping for the best is kind of our approach, isn't it? more bubble wrap filling again. Again, the goal is to immobilize the machine when you're shipping it so it doesn't have a chance to jostle around at all. Jostling is going to result in damage, or could result in serious damage if it's allowed to shift around inside of that box too much. So Patty has done what appears at this point an excellent job of immobilizing her machine coming from Texas so that it's less likely to incur any damage, which, I mean, a little bit of effort on the front end helps a lot on the back end, right? This almost feels like some of that packing foam that Alex and I had talked about. Alex from the UK. It's in these little bags. Now, it if this is the stuff, it didn't do its job real well of molding to the shape of the machine. This must be some other sort of packing filler type stuff, because it looks like Patty had to fill this with that extra bubble wrap. I'm not opposed to technology, even though I'm a vintage guy, but this stuff again, if it is that chemical stuff that you break and two chemicals mix together and then it turns into this packing molding type stuff, it becomes so rigid once that chemical process is done that it doesn't do a good job of cushioning the machine. It kind of just molds itself closely to the machine, and then it kind of just follows the motion of the machine. I like the cushioning approach, and that's why it's great that Patty also incorporated this over here with a cocoon to give a nice soft ride. Again, nothing wrong with immobilizing something, but if you lose that cushion factor, then all of a sudden there's a rigidity in the process, and that machine doesn't receive a nice soft ride, whether it's coming from Texas or anywhere else in the world. So I don't know. I think the jury's still out on any of this chemical packing type material that you mix the two together and then all of a sudden it kind of turns into a globby mess and then becomes very rigid. So we'll see. We'll see. And it looks like this machine is basically just setting on top of this stuff. Yeah, I think that's probably what this stuff is. I'll show you inside of the box again. You see here where these different chambers have, sort of kind of molded to parts of the machine. But it leaves a lot of gap points. And that's never a good thing when you're shipping something, right? Here you can see it actually kind of split open, because again, it becomes very rigid and brittle. See that stuff? So I mean, it's better than nothing, and I know that people are trying it now, but I'm going to stick with my packing method for now, because it's gotten machines around the world several times with no damage. But maybe combining the two is another possibility, right? Here's another chunk of that stuff that just kind of broke free. If the stuff went through the chemical process and stayed supple and gave a nice cushioning effect, I might give it a try, but because it becomes incredibly brittle and stiff, I just don't know. I don't know. If you have ideas or thoughts on this stuff, or if you've tried it, by all means, type it in the chat. But I don't know. That rigidity factor just kind of turns me off, because the whole idea in building this fortress around the machine is to give it a cushy ride. not to stick it inside of, basically the equivalent of kind of building rigid, almost board-like structures around the very delicate, fragile machine. So, oh well, new stuff, huh? New stuff. So again, the machine is just kind of setting in here. I'm just going to lift the machine out in its cocoon. I can feel the bottom of the machine. So Patty's done a really good job on the sides of the machine as far as I can feel. The bottom of the machine doesn't have much protection. But again, the machine was shipped on its side. And as far as I can tell, I can't quite see through this stuff, but it looks like it was probably shipped on the back side of the machine, which would be the best way to do it. The only vulnerability on the back end machine is the housing for the motor, which, depending on the impact that the machine could take, could cause damage. But we'll find out as soon as we get into it, right? So this is kind of what the inside of this looks like. And again, it's not tightly molded to the machine at all. The machine was turned on the side. You can see here the machine kind of pressed into this stuff a little bit. Again, this stuff is real brittle, so when you apply a little bit of pressure to it, it kind of crumbles, this packing chemical material stuff. And again, it gives a real rigid, stiff ride, not a cushy ride. So that's where I'm a little bit skeptical. And if it was supposed to mold in to the machine that Patty laid on its side in here, there is a huge amount of space around where the machine would have the opportunity to jiggle around in this little foam fortress or whatever it is. But from a sheer protection standpoint, from side impacts, it does its job, right? I just wish it would stay supple and not become so rigid and brittle. Well, it is what it is, right? That's what Patty chose to do. So, yeah, that's just, it's just, it's all stuck together. I wonder if that's by design. How interesting. You got to see this stuff. It's kind of interesting. So here we have what appears to be two joining points. And if you look at the side, it's called Smart Film, if I'm reading that correctly, by IntelliPack. And if you want to find out more about this stuff, it's 1-866, looks like 629-2166, I think. I could see this working well if you were palletizing something for like things that you normally would just ship on a wood pallet, using this as an extra barrier protection. I'm not sold on it for sewing machines yet, though. Oh, I'll move this out of the way and get that box out of the way too. Nice sturdy box that Patty used as well. So I'm assuming what you do is you put those little packets in there and you activate them, and then they kind of mold to the shape of the box, don't they? And Patty is from Beaumont, Texas. If anyone's ever heard of Beaumont, Texas before, it's spelled B-E-A-U-M-O-N-T. B-E-A-U-M-O-N-T. Beaumont, Texas. All right, let me set this behind, and we'll get this machine up on the workbench. And again, what kind of triggered Patty to send this into the workshop is she was trying to use it and got a big poof and felt that it was probably the capacitor going out on the machine that's adjacent to the motor. So we'll find out once we start to dig into the machine what we're working with. Oh, hey, I think that's Michelle. Michelle and I don't know the SB, whoever that is. Welcome, SB. I've never seen that screen name before during a live stream or a premiere, so that's a new friend of ours. And SB is bored, huh? Well, if you get bored, you can always go somewhere else. Because I have a process that I follow. I talk a lot, and if you don't like that, I get it. But that's my style, SB. So love it or leave it, buddy. Hey, how you doing, Michelle? Good to see you. Good. I'm glad y'all like the jacket. So Patty has done a really good job. If you're not familiar with my packing method, she's done a really good job of creating a bubble cocoon around this machine. The only part of it that felt a little bit vulnerable to me is the bottom. But again, this was shipped laying on its side with the back down. So that shouldn't be a factor. Shouldn't be a factor at all. I'm going to quick type a little note to SB. I'm curious about where SB is from. And SB may have clicked off already after I... Oh, so this jacket is getting some thumbs up. Michelle really likes it. Yeah, I do too. I just typed a quick little note to SB since SB, whether a guy or a gal, apparently thought that things were a little bit boring for them. So Well, I hope y'all are having a good Saturday where you are. I'm getting a little bit of a later start than I'd like to get. I was working on some other things this morning, and then if you were part of the live stream right at the beginning, you saw that on this workbench over here, I had that Adler machine all torn apart, but Patty was really wanting to see how the machine arrived, and so I cleared everything off the workbench so we could take a peek at her machine that came out of Texas. Kind of interesting. Been getting a lot of machines. Actually, I've always been getting a lot of machines out of Texas. Texas folks are serious about vintage sewing machines and sewing in general. So, yep, Emma works in a hospital in Florida, and she's shared. So I'm not sharing any deep dark secrets about her. She works as a pharmacist down in Florida. So. Well, if you saw that clue at the beginning where I showed the beautiful niece of His Majesty the King of Sweden, you're probably already suspecting what might be inside of here. And then I gave you that extra clue about the other premiere I'd done recently, which was almost a mirror and match machine of what we're going to be unveiling here. The unique thing about this machine, again, is that it made a very big poof for Patty and then stopped working. So we got something going on in this machine that I'll have to discover. Well, there you have a real clear view, don't you? Real good bubble wrap job that Patty has done on this machine. And it looks like on the inside, you can start to see that white, those real vulnerable parts of the machine. She added that extra padding to, like I've suggested in other packing videos before. Oh, nice. You guys have common ground in the healthcare field. It looks like Michelle was a respiratory therapy person. Cool. I love that about our getting together and kind of having a chance to visit with each other during a live stream or a premiere like that. We learn all kinds of things that we have in common. Isn't that nice? Very, very cool. I wonder if they hopefully they weren't trying to operate the machine with it like this. Maybe this just came out of alignment somehow, but you can see that gap point right there. This balance wheel on the Swedish Beauties should be right up against the housing of the machine so that that belt can run true over the pulley system. And if they were trying to run it like this with about a 3 or 4 millimeter gap, it's putting a lot of tension, torque, and drag on that long belt that goes down to the bobbin winding assembly, which means it's also straining that motor as well. And when a motor gets strained, it tends to run hot, And if folks continue to try to run it like that, it's going to cause that motor to overheat, which it sounds like that may have been what happened to Patty. That motor overheated, and then it caused that capacitor to blow on the motor. On these Swedish Beauties, there's capacitors and resistors on the motor assembly, and then also within the foot controller as well. So, and I always talk about the motor and the foot controller working in concert with each other. So hopefully there's no damage to the foot controller as well. Because if the motor's working hard, the foot controller's drawing more amperage trying to push that motor, and it can cause that foot controller to overheat as well, especially if the person's trying to operate the machine at a slower speed, and all of that electricity is building up inside of that foot controller and generating heat and causing it to overheat that that infrastructure of the foot controller, the capacitor, the resistor, and all the other little components inside of that foot controller. So that may be our first clue if the machine was being operated like this, because that would create a huge amount of drag and would cause that motor and everything else interrelated to it to overheat. And poof, there you go. So we'll see. Okay. And while this isn't the type of bubble wrap that I use, these are really large chambers. This works very well too, especially as Patty has done it, and just going layer upon layer upon layer upon layer to protect her Swedish Beauty. So whether you use the larger stuff or the smaller stuff like I do, make sure you cocoon it similar to what you're seeing here with Patty's packing job. I think all in all, she's done a really, really good job. Really good job. Yeah, I intentionally, if you were at the beginning of this, I intentionally showed you as I was clearing off the workbench. That's kind of the way my days go sometimes. You got to be flexible in the workshop. You're all of a sudden working on something and you get a critical call from someone that wants to swing by the workshop with a machine because they're right in the middle of a project. So you got to move something off of the workbench and then put their machine on. And flexibility is the key, right? Kind of like our Florida snowbird. He looks like he's a pretty flexible guy, doesn't he? Oh. You can see over on this side, Patty added this little extra padding to the bobbin winding stem that kind of sticks out. And then also this thread guide back here, there's a little bit of extra padding on there as well. And that's a wise decision, just like she did across the front of the machine, you can see, because of all the plastic knobs. She's got this extra styrofoam and other things like that to try to create just a little bit more of a barrier, because the last thing we want to have happen is like that machine we got out of Minnesota, where the machine had taken a tumble and a number of the plastic knobs on the front were busted. So a little bit of extra prevention can really save a headache, right? There we go. I think we got it lined up again. I like to get you guys close to the machine though, so I can show you the things that I'm seeing from my vantage point. And again, if you're working with scissors near the machine, just kind of point the tip away in case you somehow slip. You don't end up scratching the patina on the machine. So see that? This is thoughtful packing. See how that molds right to the and I know that when Maddie sent her 222K to the workshop many, many months ago, she used the little noodle things that people use in pools to fit around some of the sensitive areas of her featherweight convertible. But this just shows that extra care that that owner has for the machine by going to this extent. So very cool, very cool. I mean, you can't go to Walmart and buy one of these machines, right? So it is irreplaceable in that respect. So here we have the foot controller. I would like to see a little bit better packing of the foot controller. Again, the foot controller is a very delicate, fragile part of the machine. And this has a single layer of bubble wrap, and then it was kind of tucked into the harp space. But I would go around it probably with about 3 or 4 layers of bubble wrap, partly so it makes it a little bit bulkier too, and it's less likely to have the opportunity to be bumping around inside of the harp space. But these again, they've got capacitors, resistors inside of them, just like the motor area. So those are delicate components. You want to try to protect them as well as you can. So. And I'll show you the back of the, I've talked about this before. If you're ever having to buy a replacement foot controller for your Swedish Beauty, always make sure that you check the pictures wherever it's being sold, whether it's on eBay or somewhere else. You check the pictures very carefully for the nomenclature information. See if I can get this to line up better. Because the Swedish do a real good job of giving you the specific models. There we go. Finally, it zeroed in. They give you the specific models that this foot controller is compatible with. So based on what we're seeing on the nomenclature plate, I'm hoping that this machine turns out to be this model up here. Then we know that the foot controller is matched appropriately to the motor. Some of these will draw a little bit more in ohms and how the voltage is managed going through that motor. So if a foot controller is mismatched with the motor, it could cause the same result that Patty got with the capacitor getting too much voltage and then all of a sudden going boom, kind of what she experienced down in Texas there. Oh, you're calling him Limber Larry now, really? Oh God, poor Larry. Poor Larry gets such a bad rap, doesn't he? Just because he's a snowbird. Oh, this is unusual. I have to say I've never ever seen this before. Where someone will, you can see the packing on the back of here, and right away you would assume that Patty's effort to add this extra padding was to keep the spool pins safe. But then all of a sudden you pull this back and look at what's underneath. Two of these very, very fragile cams. And I would not recommend that you ship cams on the back of the machine like this, because they can bang against the housing and scratch the machine, or they can crack because they're made out of plastic, right? So that would be a suggestion is if you've got cams like this that you want to ship with the machine, just wrap them separately and tuck them inside of the harp space with the foot controller. You could even put them on top of the foot controller and then bubble wrap them all together. But I don't recommend shipping them like this, even with this extra little padding on top. They can get damaged, and these are like unicorns when it comes to finding them anywhere. If they got damaged and you had to replace them, they're nearly impossible to find. So and we do have a cam in the back of the machine too. I can't see what it is yet. But again, on these Swedish beauties, if you are looking at getting one or you have one, never operate these green machines without one of these cams in the rear of the machine. I've explained several times in other premieres and live streams, these set the swing boundaries of the needle. And without a cam in the back, the needle doesn't know what the boundary is, can very easily strike the throat plate. And you might say, well, what's the deal? What's going to happen? Is the needle going to break? Probably, but worse than that, it causes scarring on the inside edges of the throat plate where that thread is feeding out of the bobbin case. And then all of a sudden you get snags, you get breaks, you get inconsistent stitching, and it just creates a nightmare for you. So always have one of these in the back of the machine. Doesn't matter which one, just have one in there. So but again, all in all, Patty has done a phenomenal job of packing. Excellent job. All right, let's see if we can get this piece off here. Oh, I see what it is. It's kind of tucked underneath the harp. all the way to the other side. I'm going to pull it out there. Yeah, even this styrofoam compared to that inner chemically activated stuff that Patty used that Alex and I talked about, even this stuff is more supple and gives a little bit better cushion than that padding that was put inside of the box with the edges of the box. So maybe they'll improve it where once it does its thing, it'll stay supple instead of becoming real rigid like that stuff I showed you in the box. There we go. It's real tight to the paint, and I wanted to stretch it out a little bit so I could get the scissors underneath the edge of that stretch wrap without putting that scissor up against the paint patina. And unlike the recent machine that I bought that is an original owner machine, where I did get in the communication, if you saw me show you that recently, where I did the kind of the triple unboxing, I did the unboxing of the machine, a green machine like this that I bought from an original owner's son. And we communicated afterwards. He saw the live stream and he goes, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that they did that." What happened, if you remember, that machine I bought arrived like this, upside down in the box. And the gentleman that I got it from watched the live stream that I did of those triple unboxings, and he goes, "It was put in the box correctly, and then I delegated someone to put the packing label on." He said somehow they ended up turning the box upside down and putting the label on the wrong side of the box. And that's how the Swedish Beauty that I did the recent unboxing live stream of ended up arriving at the workshop upside down. Thankfully, that didn't happen with Patty's, because what ended up happening is the thread guide on the machine that I bought from the original owner ended up getting bent up here. And this is, again, a real thin gauge metal. It's a super thin gauge metal. And once it gets bent one direction, if you try to bend it back the other way, it's kind of like remember the old metal coat hangers? If you ever wanted to use a coat hanger for something else, like we used to use them to get into cars if we locked our keys in cars and stuff, when you used to have those little buttons that you could grip a hold of it with and pull it up to get yourself back into the car. Once you bend certain metals one way, you can't bend them back the other way without it breaking. And that's kind of the way this metal is here. So hopefully Patty's arrived better than mine did. Well, you have a real clear view of the machine now. Any guesses as to what model within the green machine class this is as far as the Swedish Beauty model? I'm going to take a quick peek at the chat because I've been away from it for a little bit. Yeah, so again, really, it's so fun to look at the chat between folks attending the premiere, between Michelle and Emma, where they can share that common ground of having both worked in healthcare. Emma is still working in healthcare right now. Michelle is retired as a respiratory person, And that's how we make friendships. I know Sonny and Paula. Sonny lives in Pennsylvania. Paula lives down in Florida. They become fast friends just as a result of interacting at uh, live streams and or premieres like this. So that's, along with our shared love of vintage sewing machines, it's just great to meet new people from all over the country and around the world because of our common interest in great machines like this. Michelle's cute. She's like, I'm still here. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad. So if there's any guesses as to what model within the Green Machine class this is, by all means type them in the chat. I'll try to take a peek and see if anyone nails it, because there's several flavors of Green Machine, both within the class 20s and the class 21s. Seeing if I see any scorching marks on the back of here where that capacitor blew. The capacitor on these motors is on the inside, so I wouldn't expect to see anything here. And this crack, if you can see it, I'll kind of move the camera again. This crack right here, yep, there you can see it. This crack right here could have been pre-existing. It could have been in transport. Who knows? It's hard to say, right? But it's very unlikely that this plastic would crack, even if a capacitor blew inside of the motor, like the customer described to me when she reached out about sending it to the workshop. So I'll just kind of show you the back here. You can see that there is a cam in the machine right now. And if you've never removed a cam from one of these machines before, you have to make sure that that slider on the other side that's adjacent to this knob is pushed all the way in to position 5 so that this is fully extended to the rear. And then you just rotate this down. Feels like that spring may be broken. It's real stiff. But you rotate this down and then you can remove that cam. You should be able to remove that cam. Let's do this. And this little finger right over here is what reads the cam, and it's not fully retracting right now. But we may be able to get this out anyway. So this is kind of stuck in there right now, and I don't want to force it because there's a lot of delicate mechanisms that are adjacent to this. But normally you just rotate this little arm down, and then this just slides out straight away, which it's not doing right now. And what I'm moving there is the stitch width controller. Every time you change positions on that slider, you zero out the stitch width controller because it retracts that little finger right here so that it's not making contact with the cam. Because obviously if you've got it in position 4, it's going to be pressed into the cam, and if you try forcing that cam out, you could bend this reader that generates all of the decorative stitching from the cam stack. Feels like our reverse is frozen too. This machine has a number of challenges already. So I'll very gently work on this and try to figure out why. And it feels like this is partly out of alignment too. It's not matching up. Someone may have forced this on, and that's why it's not coming off. It's not lined up correctly. And this also looks like it's bent too. If you look at that stem very carefully, and that's part of the reason it's not rotating. This is actually bent down right now, and it should be on an even parallel with the cam stack. So this was forced in some way, and this is not lining up now. The whole purpose of this little arm is that it's supposed to rotate into the groove on the cam, and then when you change the cam positions, this slider kind of brings that cam forward and back. And right now it's impossible to do that because this has been bent down. Maybe someone was, trying to, I don't know what they were trying to do, but this whole stem that goes into the front of that control is bent right now. And kind of like I talked about metals, I've had these taken apart several times. That stem is one of those things. I may be able to heat it up with my torch and get it back into proper alignment. I may have to replace it. So we'll have to wait and see. But all in all, a fairly clean looking machine. I don't know if Patty has done the cleaning on it, or kind of like the stuff that Alex gets in the UK where he buys the pretty stuff and it's already been spruced up. I'm not sure if that was the case or not. But we definitely are going to have some issues in this region, along with the motor issues we already know about with that capacitor blowing in it. So a little bit of up in, where am I looking? Up in this area, you can see a little bit of varnishing and crud buildup in there where it's that darker brown color. Oh, hi, Mary. Mary from Washington State has popped in. It's always good to see Mary. So, did any of you try to venture a guess as far as the model? And I know I showed you that foot controller up close, so you were able to see the recommended model that's on the foot controller. And I can tell you that the issue that the customer had with that capacitor blowing on this motor was not a result of the foot controller being mismatched with the motor. There's other issues going on because this is, in fact, if I rotate it down now so you can look at that data plate, this is a CL, almost looks like CI, doesn't it? And I know historically I've sometimes have said CI, but the Swedish make their L's lowercase sometimes on these data plates, and sometimes they make them uppercase. But the CI or CL signifies class. So we know it's a class 21A, and the motor is rated at 1.5 amps. This is a US setup, so it's 110 to 120 volts, AC DC, and the recommended needle for this machine is a 15/1. So that's kind of the story of the data plate. It gives us some of the basics of the machine, talks about the amperage of the motor, and at this point, we don't know whether that motor, as a result of that catastrophic poof that ended up happening to the customer when they were trying to operate it, whether or not it's damaged this motor, or whether it's just a matter of replacing that capacitor that blew on the machine. But again, my immediate suspicion falls in the realm of why did it blow? What caused it to blow? What kind of typically a surge? What kind of a surge event happened that caused the capacitor to be sacrificed and hopefully save the motor from being destroyed, as a whole? Because motors on these machines are not cheap to replace. I'll tell you that straight away. So other than the crack that I showed you down here on the bottom of the motor housing, right there, other than that crack down there, I'm not seeing any obvious damage on the outside of the machine so far, which is a good thing. Yeah, because that's not, because this is out of alignment. The door doesn't close properly either. See how it normally would close completely? You can see right now we've got a gap on there as well. And that's a result of this piece right here that's been bent out of alignment. It should be straight. It's bent down now, so now it's sticking out. There we go. It's still bent, but I pushed it up a little bit further, and now the door is closing, which is good. So this is a CL21A. And if you wanted to know the actual year of it, you've got to look into the faceplate area. And right here is the serial number, if you're able to see that. And I can look up on my phone. It's a serial number that starts with an M. And we'll see if we can get the actual year that this machine was made. I've got a little cheat sheet on my phone that gives me the date breakouts. And again, my friend Hans from Norway was able to track this down and very, very kindly shared it with me. So if folks reach out with their serial numbers, I'm happy to date the machine. But when Hans gave it to me, he asked me if I would keep this to myself in a sense. So I can use it as a resource remotely for you, but I can't give you the actual sheet breakout to honor Hans' request. Let's see here. Let's see if I can look up this serial number for you real quick. Or look it up for Patty. I'm scrolling through a lot of pictures. I've got it saved as kind of a screenshot, so it's going to take me a while to get to that point. Still scrolling. I got a lot of stuff on this phone. Holy mackerel. I know it's after my Tom Hanks pictures. Getting close, getting closer. Oh, bummer. Just hit a wrong button. Hang in there. But I've got a ton of pictures and screenshots on here. Just a ton of them. Oh, there's Tom. So we're getting close. Okay. So according to this machine would have been made in 1959 because the M, if you have an M serial number starting on your green machine as well, it's going to be from the year 1959. So a late 1950s model, it's going to be a little bit newer than some of the other green machines you've seen, like the Type 21s that I've shown. And but it's going to be younger. Wait, no, it's going to be older. It's still going to be older. It's still going to be older than the 19E Special I showed you recently that was born in 1964. So 1959, again, they made these green machines dating all the way back to the class 20s that go back into the 1940s. So green machines were a very popular model, and they just made little tweaks and changes to it along the way. I just opened the raceway, kind of had this drop out. Well, this thread, I talk about this all the time. This thread that's currently on the bobbin, this is probably from 1959. Thread has an expiration like anything else. And over time will, because of the environmental things it's exposed to and everything else, will start to discolor like this. So this thread is definitely not helping the machine in any way. So I'll freshen it up with new thread, obviously, as I go through the process of getting this machine back. But that is just some good gravy. That is some nasty looking stuff. So if you have any of that old thread sitting in your sewing room and you're like, well, I'm just going to hang on to it, maybe I'll use it, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Or put it up on the shelf and never plan to use it in your machine. Because part of that discoloration, it can be due to lighting, but it's typically environmental things, and it's got all kinds of junk in there, and it's contaminating that entire raceway, even if you clean that raceway out. So plus it creates a lot of other issues for the machine as well. And this is all gummed up right now too. That's the quick release, which isn't responding correctly. And this is how you change presser foot pressure. Right now, by rotating it to the rear of the machine, and you'll see it's going down further and further, what I'm doing is I'm reducing presser foot pressure. If I'm sewing something super light, so I rotate it towards the front of the machine, I'm increasing that presser foot pressure, and it should then be more compatible for sewing heavy multiple layers of materials like canvas, even cottons, and certainly leathers as well. That should be locking into place, and it's not. So this is another thing to add to my list. Yeah, so right now there's basically little or no presser foot pressure because this is not locking into place. All right. So this 1959 machine, as we look at it from all angles, seems to have arrived in good condition, all things considered. But it's going to need a lot of care. It's going to need a lot of attention. Oh, Michelle has a class 21 Husqvarna as well, and is contemplating the idea of sending it in. She's having some issues with the cam stack reader. Well, I'm reluctant to, normally I would try to plug it in, but I'm reluctant to try to plug it in because of the electrical issues that we already know that the customer told us about with the machine. So what I'm going to do now is kind of wrap us unboxing and just say, I'm going to set this on one of my shelves to eventually get it to the workbench. But I've got so many machines waiting right now to come to the workbench. And just this morning, I got contacted by one of my customers from Indiana, just kind of touching base and seeing whether or not their machine was on the workbench yet. I'm trying to look down the line. There's about 5 machines in front of it. So, but these are a lovely, lovely machine, and when they're operating properly, they're really magical. And this one, if you can see it in the shot, I don't know if you can. I'm just going to set this down very gently. This one will also need, and you've seen me do this before in Facebook shots, I think. This one is going to need new pedestal feet. You can see these are worn all the way down, where basically this machine is sitting on the metal on the base. There's no cushion as far as the feet on here. So that's another thing I'll add to my list to take care of for Patty. Because there's nothing worse than trying to use a machine like this once that machine motor is back to life again, and having the machine like vibrating and rattling on the table, especially if you're dealing with a table like the workbench here without any padding, just like a wood table. This thing would be jiggling and wiggling all over the place. It really would be irritating to try to use it that way. So another thing to add to my list. Yeah, there's something going on here. The balance wheel won't even turn. That's the range of motion I can get out of it right now. Okay, well, a 1959 CL21A has officially been unboxed. And again, if you're joining the live stream late, it came to the workshop because the customer was trying to use it and all of a sudden got a very large poof from the back of the machine motor. And apparently it was a big enough poof I showed you in the beginning. Actually, this is part of the debris field that the customer wrapped up in this little paper towel, which includes fragments of the light as well. And the light is in, well, I should say it's in real close proximity to the motor, but depending on how severe the little mini explosion was, all kinds of stuff can happen in a closed space like that. You know what I mean? All right. Well, I hope you all have a good Saturday. And I'm going to end the live stream. I'll take a quick look at the chat, see if there's anything that... So I'll just say, again, I didn't scroll all the way to the top of the chat, but really glad that Michelle and Emma from work and Mary, and I'm sure there are others in the shadows that are part of the live stream as well, based on the count I see. And it's kind of a shame with this SB character, whoever that is. They probably clicked off after I said, well, if you're bored, I guess you... Sometimes I'm very a matter of fact. But, you know, you can only do so much to make an unboxing exciting, apart from setting the box on fire. So an unboxing is a little bit of a low-key discovery. Let's see what the machine is. Let's see how it arrived. Let's see how it was packed. And that's not necessarily going to cause both of your toes to tap, but it's a real interesting discovery process. And if you can look at it from that standpoint, maybe SB will come back again in another unpacking and not expect, you know, me to be juggling plates or something like that. But we're just trying to see how that customer's machine arrived, whether it's coming, in this case, from Texas, right? Yeah, whether it's coming from Texas or from around the world. you can only imagine the number of hands that touched that package. Possibly it was dropped or fell off of a conveyor belt. And we're always curious to see, how did the machine arrive and how did the customer pack it? So that's really what an unboxing is. It's not we're not doing a roller coaster ride, although it feels like that sometimes, doesn't it? So hope all of you have a great Saturday. And I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom. I see there were some other comments. Oh, and I see Kevin and Doreen have kind of jumped in as well, which is great. It's always good to see my friends, Kevin and Doreen also. And I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag, as they say, but Kevin and Doreen are actually in the process right now of trying to plan a trip from where they are. And I forget where they're at. Kevin and Doreen, if you could help me out, what state are you guys in? Are you in Kansas or somewhere out west, I believe? But they're going to be driving to the workshop in the next week or so and bringing several machines for me to lay my healing hands on. So that's kind of exciting. I love it when customers are so committed to their machines and so passionate about what I do and how I do it, that they are willing to drive hundreds and even thousands of miles to come to the workshop so that they can receive that TLC for their beloved vintage treasures. I'm honored by that. I truly am honored and humbled by that, because I just do what I do. Yeah, I do. Well, I'm going to move our friend back over by this Swedish beauty, the king's niece, and now she's going to be the guardian of this machine until it can get back up on the workshop bench, and I can try to do my magic to it to figure out, why did it blow up? Why did this machine blow up? Oh my gosh! Oh my goodness gravy! So it's not going to be plugged in until I can diagnose what happened and make sure that it never ever happens again. Okay, well, thank you for that. So my friends that are looking at making the trip to the workshop are coming from the great state of Iowa. From the great state of Iowa. Well, I'm so grateful for all of you. All of you have busy lives. All of you have busy things to do on a Saturday. But you took the time to pause your life and to join me for this, according to my friend that probably left the live chat already, this boring experience of me unboxing this Swedish beauty from Texas. But you know what? It's kind of like going to the theater. One person will enjoy the production, another person will not enjoy it. I guess that's true of my live streams and my premieres as well. Michelle said she had a great time. And it's kind of fun, isn't it? It's fun to see these machines arrive from all over the country, all over the world, and kind of vicariously meet these owners that said, I want that machine to go to the workshop in Wisconsin. And even Mary did that with her 101 singer as well. So soon that 101 will make its way to the workbench as well. So thank you to all of you that support me, encourage me in my work, and join me even for these unboxings, which to some people apparently aren't very exciting, but I find them exciting because I'm just curious to see, how did that machine do traveling all the way from Texas? How did the customer do packaging it and protecting that treasure? So there you go. Another unboxing now complete. And I'll just say to Kevin and Doreen, let's finalize your arrival plans and all that. And I'll look forward to giving you a little tour of the workshop. Okay? Take care, everybody. Happy Saturday. Oh, you're very welcome, Mikey. I've never seen that name before either. Isn't this exciting when we have new people join us for these live streams? Mikey Potts. I have no idea where Mikey is from, but I'm so glad that Mikey popped into this live stream. And I'll just leave the live stream on for a little bit in case anyone else wants to greet another person that's in the live stream, or welcome Mikey, who is, as far as I know, I usually remember names, screen names real well. I've never seen Mikey Potts pop up before, so maybe some of you want to welcome Mikey as well. Well, Mary, if you decide you want to get a Husqvarna, I've got a couple in the workshop that they're in my personal collection. They're original owner machines. And when and if you get to that decision point, I could prepare one for you and take it through my 100 I used to say 126 steps. It's up to 130 steps now on these Husqvarnas. So yeah, hopefully Mikey shares where they are from. I'd be curious to know.